So EDR carries 200 points and cost report carries 100 points. So it's not about submitting a design report and getting 200 points. There are many breakdowns of the engineering design report that you need to submit in the report formats like DFMEA, DVP, and earlier it used to be the Gantt chart also. So these reports you are supposed to submit along with the engineering design report. The breakdown of the reports and the static evaluations guidelines will be communicated to you. So then you will be able to know how exactly we are judging the reports, based on what parameters the reports are being judged. So all right, we'll just move to the main discussion. Yesterday we discussed things about the pre-design discussions. So pre-design discussions include our basically the imagination part, like how exactly we want our vehicle to look like. So as I told you yesterday, so there must be a unique design, not unique look of the vehicle in the competition, though the all the quads work the same way, but the design, the look is different for every quad. So if I share my home screen with you guys, you will be able to see a sketch in the background, so the desktop. So this is, suppose this is what my design, I want my design to look like. So when you see a design, it gives you a feel. So as of now I see this design is very much inspired from KTM's chassis. So you see the orange parts, the tubes, they are related to the strength. So color, basically if you see this chassis, this is a muscular chassis, so strength is being reflected in this. Now you see the feel of the body. You see this the smooth curves, the seat, the fuel tank, everything is so well so looking well that anybody, if this vehicle is manufactured in real, so anybody coming near to this vehicle will be attracted. So he will wish that, okay, I would be much happy to drive this particular vehicle. So look is a different part and engineering behind the design is a different part. So firstly, what my primary goal is to imagine something, to get an inspiration from anywhere, or to design an exclusively unique idea. Like your team might be having a unique idea, okay, my vehicle will be looking like this and looking like that, so what will be the color combinations, that all things that is not related to engineering in the first place. So now since your imagination part is done, your dreaming is done, now is the right time for your dreams to be converted into reality. So you now start working on the engineering part. So you will see the rule book, you will just see like how much is the wheelbase track width relation, what should be the ground clearance, optimum ground clearance, so that you successfully compete in all the competitions. And like what sort of tires, what tire size you should select, what should be the drive system, how you should install the suspension, or which suspension type you should use. So these all the things, they come on the secondary part. The first part is like you visualize your design, you dream it, you start living your dream. Okay, this is how my vehicle will look like. So on the second step, you will select the systems like engine. Suppose for example Lifan 250cc engine you are using. So according to that, you will prepare a dummy model for the engine compartment. Then you will see the dimensions of the vehicle, like how much height ride height will be comfortable for the driver, what is his leg length, what should be the size of the footrest, and what should be the sufficient and enough space for the driver's leg protection, so that he doesn't accidentally hit the tire when the vehicle is running, or when the vehicle goes into a bump or a jounce. So basically when these all things are done, now it is the right time for you to start considering like the performance, what do you say, performance characteristics, your desires. Like you want your vehicle to be a good in acceleration or to be good in speed, or you want to win the suspension test. No, specifically just pin down your aim. Basically you want to win the championship, but how exactly you will win the championship if you consistently win every event, right? So suppose there is a champions trophy over here, right? So this is the champions trophy, and you want to win the champions trophy. All right, so this champions trophy is the only way to claim this trophy is to win acceleration, to win hill climb, to win design event, or not win, to perform good, very good in these events, coast and traction. So every test that the rule book says, you need to consistently perform well in all the tests. So the tests, I'll just say it to you: DISASSEM, the dismantling and assembly test, that carries 50 points. EDR, engineering design report, that carries 200 points. Coast report carries 100 points, and brake test doesn't carry any points. Acceleration 50 points, suspension 60, mud walker 80, maneuverability 60, kill the hill 50, traction 50, fuel efficiency 50, and endurance 225. So this is the breakdown of your aim basically. So if you divide the champions trophy in these many events, so you have to consistently either win or stand at least near to the winner to be the champion. So suppose you won most of the events, so ultimately you are going to be the champion. So if you just break down your aim, so you will see that okay, in the first place when you are designing your vehicle, you need to see the serviceability should be good. It must be as minimum as possible time to remove and replace the things from your vehicle and to assemble them back. Then comes EDR. Suppose I'm a non-technical person and I just want to study your vehicle. I don't know how calculations, how you have done the calculations. What I want to know is that what are the features of your vehicle. Just for example, you say that acceleration, it goes 0 to 60 kmph in 2 seconds, so 3 seconds, so that is your acceleration. So these things, how easily, how brilliantly you mention them in your design report reflects that okay, this is a good design report and it should be given good points for that. The cost report, I'll be discussing the content of the design report, a good design report and the cost report and everything. So just as of now, I'm breaking down the things to your understanding that how you should approach. Suppose you are studying anybody's design report. If it is too complex, if it is too boring, too lengthy, your interest will be a little less in that design report. So it should be as like the number of pages as minimum as possible, the content to the point. I mean, there should not be definition. So obviously if you're using the steering system, we don't want you to define the steering types of steering systems in the steering system selection. Okay, whatever you have selected, justify that selection. So for example, if I say you are using the 4-bar link mechanism, suppose, so in 4-bar link mechanism, this is a tripod over here, the column is fixed, steering column, one tie rod is fixed over here, and that goes to the knuckle attached to the tires, and the second tie rod, the second knuckle of the second tire. All right, so suppose you are using this steering system, so why did you use this particular steering system? So as I told you, you need to avoid the usage of theory, so you can do a good representation using benchmarking. Now you must be wondering, what is benchmarking? So benchmarking is basically comparing your selection and making it justified in terms of there can be any number of options. So in terms of first of all cost, then availability, then ease of installation, then serviceability or maintenance. So these can be factors, and these factors can vary as per your thought, as per your place. So what I'm asking you, like, just mention in a table serial number 1, 2, 3, types of steering systems available, like this for link mechanism, then rack and pinion, whatever. So whatever these system type of system are available, now you selected any specific type. Now make another table and justify your selection. Suppose give rating out of 10. Okay, so if you see this particular system, what is the cost as compared to the track and pinion, bomb and sector, whatever the screw and recirculating balls, whatever these steering types are available, just compare that as with the other types of steering systems and give us suitable or justified cost factor. Like in cost, how much points you will give to the rack and to your selection. So the cost, you can make it in your workshop in house, so the cost will be very less. You just need a metal plate over here and two tie rods, a couple of rod ends, and your job is done. So cost will be minimum possible. Out of all these options, the cost will be minimum. So maybe I will give 8 or 9 out of 10, or maybe 10, because this is the best selection. So now comes the availability. No problems. Even if you are at the remote, the most remote area of the country, then you can make it. You just need a MS flat for the this triangular plate, and rods, hollow tubes for the tire rods, and rod ends bearings that you can get from anywhere. So availability is also a very good factor for this. Suppose 9. Ease of installation, it is the easiest method to install in quad. Again 8 or 9, whatever you want to give, just you need to justify your selection. Now serviceability and maintenance. So do you really think that this is really hard to be serviced or maintained? No, I don't think so. If any time your ball joint gets worn out, you just need to replace a ball joint. That's it. Rod end. So again, I will give maybe 8 in comparison to the other. So then comes the reliability factor. Then you can give the reliability also. So out of these factors, so this was the this selection. So selection, suppose A, then comes rack and pinion B, then comes worm and sector C. So make a list like this. Now give rating to these all these factors. Now you will come up with a sum total. So your selection will be reflecting the highest total. This is how you can brilliantly display your selection in the design report, and it will eliminate a lot of theory, lot of questions that we can ask. Because if you use a lot of theory, you definitely will be using a lot of terms. Those terms may be unnecessary for this particular selection. So you will invite unnecessary questions, or the discussion will be diverted. So this is one good thing that you can use in the design report. Your selection, basically the calculation part that comes later. Why did you particularly selected this system is the first question in my mind. So suppose if somebody uses rack and pinion in quad, then I will ask why rack and pinion. So if you are using it just for the sake of fun, okay, let's try and use rack and pinion, then you will invite a lot of questions, because I have seen that this particular system is good for a quad. Until and unless unless you justify your selection, you will be inviting a lot of questions, and if you don't answer them satisfactorily, that means you will be losing points in your design report evaluation. So this was one thing that is applicable to all these subsystems, be it brakes, suspension, or anything like selection of subs particular arrangement. Why did you select? Compare it, give points, total it up, and the max, the highest points, the system that is getting highest points should be your selection. So if you haven't selected it, that means you had proved your selection is wrong. All right. So design report, I will discuss the content in detail. This was just one case I wanted to discuss with you. The rule book says, now comes the cost report. See, earlier the cost report was just the summary sort of document that, okay, engine and transmission this much, frame, chassis, body this much, and total cost came out to be like 2 lakh, 2.5 lakh, 7 lakh, 6 lakh, doesn't matter. Now the cost report format for last 2-3 seasons, we have standardized the cost report format. We have provided you the cost tables, and almost most of the parts are mentioned in that cost report, but it's also written that you can add and eliminate the required or non-required things from the cost report. So it's like giving the cost of each and every component that you have used in the in your vehicle, manufacturing cost, whatever the labor cost, tooling cost, whatever the things are mentioned over there, you have to include everything. Then you have to come up with the solution, the cost. So earlier this was an ineffective cost report, but yes, in order to introduce this cost report, we had to, go step by step. It wasn't supposed to be done in a sudden way, like suddenly we changed the one format to the other format. So we are continuously upgrading it so that no one feels it difficult to make this report. Now comes the innovation. We at Disney think that innovation cannot be imposed. You cannot be like okay, we cannot force you to innovate anything. So innovation is an idea, can come anytime. So we have removed, I think in 2016, we have removed the points of the innovation. Now the same is a business plan. Not everyone in your team must be the business oriented person. So what we have observed in business plan is like people just for the sake of points, they present business plan, horrible business plan, I should say. So the points are removed from this too. And then comes the brake test. Brake test doesn't carry any points, and acceleration, and so far so good. So these are the tests that you have to compete in the quad. So in order to be a champion or to stand among the top ones, you need to perform good everywhere. So performing good everywhere gives you the ultimate trophy, be it a champions trophy, runner up, or any award. So more than that, more than trophy, more than winning the competition, you need to learn from it, because ultimately when you get out of your college, you will be using this knowledge somewhere in the industry. And if you don't gather the knowledge from here, it will be of no use. Similarly, like you are studying the books, but they're not helping you out in solving the real-time problems. So this is one real-time problem, and you will be solving n number of problems that you will be facing in your professional career. So all right, so it doesn't really make the winning easy. You have to go through a lot of things. You have to divide your team accordingly, and everyone does it like, okay, I have a marketing team, I have a manufacturing team, I have a team for basically the designing and assembling, everything I have. But my question is, do you have a team for R&D also? Big question. So I will recommend it for the new team. The old teams, those who are taking part for maybe the third or fourth time, they must be finding the need of R&D, because at a certain level, you will find that, okay, this vehicle is also similar to the last year's vehicle, because you have done a lot of things. But for the new teams, this is the first time you are doing it. So where to start from? what to do and how to perform good in the reports, basically how to make reports and how to answer the question, what are the questions that are being asked during the evaluation of any design report or any design what to say, cost report or anything. So first thing first, R&D. So I hope all of you have deployed an R&D team and they are working good. So R&D is not basically researching and developing a prototype. It's basically studying first. At your level, it's studying first. Study as much as possible. So if you search on Google, you will find n number of reports related to quad torque. So how many reports you have studied actually gives you the statistics what happened in the previous event. Suppose you studied the reports of Team Arihant, then you will find out they faced these many problems in the event. If you research a little more, you will find out that they faced problems in endurance, they faced problems in maybe mud walker or anything. So it's just an example. It's not about telling anybody's failures or anybody's success. It's just as much as you study, you will get positive things, and those things without failing your vehicle you can implement in advance in your vehicle. Like okay, you didn't study much, you were not aware of the failures and the similar failures those they have done earlier, you are doing them now also. So study, gather enough data, and now decide based on their results, your observation, now decide what exactly you are building and how it will be giving you the output. If that output you don't think it is satisfactory, reconsider your considerations. So this is all about performing the iterations as in, suppose you didn't design, I mean you just imagined this would be the design for my quad. Suppose the first look, okay, now you studied the rule book. The rule book challenged many points over here. Now the design is changed and design is something else now. Now comes performance. So your performance, you wanted your vehicle to perform maybe according to your considerations, good in acceleration or in torque. So now after adding these things, your vehicle will change. Okay, this is just the consideration and imagination part going on. You are studying, making changes in your considerations. You are again studying something, making changes, studying something, making changes. Now comes the R&D data. Okay, you will find similarities in your design and in somebody's design. Suppose this is team A and you are here. Okay, so you will find some similarities and some different things between these two vehicles. So now your job is to take good things from here for learning and implement them in your project if possible for you. Okay, now you will be standing somewhere over here. Okay, this is a final as of now consideration. You are standing over here. This is your design. Now after studying and researching these many things, you are standing somewhere here. Okay, now start studying about the systems and their calculations. So nowhere in any workshop or in any webinar the people will give you the exact solution, because see, if we are judging you at some point and we are providing you the exact solution, that means there is no point of doing the design competition. So we just brief you the procedure, we just brief you the right path, and now it's your duty to choose one path, one good for you out of these many that we are telling you. So neither me or anybody else in any design competition will give you exact solution to any problem. What I or people similar to me, they will show you a path. Right or wrong, we will tell you. What exactly you have to choose, that is up to you. All right. So this was all about the points and their distribution. Now coming to the design report. The first thing in today's discussion is design report. What a design report should be containing. We call it as EDR, and the EDR stands for engineering design report. The first and the foremost thing is design report. Then DVP, then FMEA. There used to be one more report, Gantt chart. This is basically the project timeline, and it is of no use as of now. So we have removed the points from here because during this competition there is no point of using Gantt chart effectively, as we don't know the deadlines yet. So we have planned and discarded this particular document. You now no need to provide this document Gantt chart in this competition part of 2020. So we won't discuss anything about this. Now comes innovation report, which is separate from the design report. Innovation, business plan, and cost report. Okay, so these things I hope you already know them, but I will tell you a relation how we think you should carry on the works, the workflow. See, the aim of the competition is we consider you a firm, a company. So we don't consider you a student team building a prototype vehicle for the competition. We consider you as a company, a design firm who is building this squad for a purpose, for weekend racings, for maybe off-road adventurers, or maybe to supply some corporates. All right. So you are a company, you were working on a design, you built a prototype, and you came to the event, prototype, investment. Okay, so you are a company, you are designing and building a prototype vehicle and looking for investment from the investors in the event. So when you go to the business plan, you don't sit in front of the judges, you sit in front, you stand in front of the investors and you present them your plan, business plan, and to seek their investment. All right. So design firm, your team may be containing 25, 30, 40 members, whatever the number is. You designed and built a prototype, brought it to the event. Now the event goes in a flow, and the flow is design, manufacturing, performance, business. Okay, so you have designed, you have manufactured, you are showing the performance of the vehicle, and then a business is happening. So basically you cannot say in design event, you cannot say that okay, we have designed it for the college event purpose. No, you always have to focus that you are a design firm, you are a corporate, you are a company. You were working on a concept. Now since the concept is developed and you are soon going to out of funding, you are looking for funding. So basically showing off the performance and then asking the people. There is a hand, just let me answer to that. Okay, all right, someone raised the hand and just took it down. So I was going to answer that. All right. So we'll answer the questions. Please just note that we'll answer the questions at the end of the session. Still, I'm trying. What judges expect in business plan factors? Just be patient. I'll be discussing them all in detail. So just note down your questions somewhere and keep them for the end of the session. We'll answer every questions you have in your mind related to design report, business plan, everything. Okay. So as of now, just let me go through the things. All right. So design, manufacturing, performance, and business. Now, the design depends on many factors. How your vehicle looks. If we talk about the design alone, look, what is the another name for look? We say it, the aesthetics also. Aesthetics, engineering, common sense, not to forget, because sometimes people do blunders with the vehicle. Common sense, I'll tell you what about the common sense, and obviously engineering and the ergonomics, safety, performance, reliability. Okay, and many more points. So this is all about the design. Now just imagine you are studying somebody's design report. What exactly you will want to want that design report to tell you? So as far as I am concerned, I will tell you what I want to have in your design report. Design report. First of all, yes, obviously content, but to the point. Avoid writing theories, essays, and your stories. How did you build? How exactly you suffered while raising the funds? How you suffered during the corona and you couldn't work. So don't explain all those things. So it's just about to the point content. Then I told you the system selection. Best way to uh, justify your selection is benchmarking. Then comes your results calculation. And how many times you performed that iterations to obtain those results. Okay. So these things are related to the content and the theory. Now, what I want is separately, what I want is the features of your vehicle, specifications. I hope you are getting my points about the features and specifications. If not, just go through the user manual or the brochure given by the showrooms, the bike showrooms or the car showrooms. Then you will find out the difference between the features and specifications. So somebody when opens your design report, he finds these contents. So he'll be just imagining, he will be creating a picture of your vehicle in his mind without even having a look on your vehicle. Now what extra other than that? The drawings with dimensions. This is the most important part. See, you have mentioned everything, and you haven't included the drawings and design of your vehicle. So it will be very hard for me to justify or verify my imagination to your design. So if I see the vehicle design and drawing, so I'll be able to justify my thoughts. What I understood from your content can now be justified with the design that you have provided. So one page should be dedicated for the drawings and designs. So maybe 2-3 views for the drawing and one completely assembled view for the complete vehicle. So this is what I want you to include, and not to forget the references. So sometimes what people do is give references like wikipedia.com, google.com, this website.com, that book dot, I mean this book written by that author. So it's not the right procedure for giving the references. The reference is basically you tell me something and to the point, that precise, that okay, I open that particular page or a link. So if you want to learn more about the references, open the IEEE website, open up some reports, some journals, and just see how the references are given in those particular reports or research papers. You will find out a real difference between your references and their references. So it's about that particular thing that somewhere you have studied or somewhere you have seen, that particular link or a line, you need to tell me, okay, I reach that particular address and see and verify your things. So yes, the table of content, the table of pictures, figures, everything you have to include, and this is how a particular design report is made. And it should not, in my point of view, it should not increase 15 pages. It should not exceed 15 pages. So more than 15 pages I'll consider it as lengthy, and will just start turning the pages. And when somebody start turning the pages, high chances are there that they will miss the valuable content that you might have written. So use in place of theory, use flow charts, diagrams, and the benchmarking and tables, graphs, graphical method, pie chart method. So the representation should be done in a creative way, so that the somebody who's taking a look on your report, he is engaged, he is finding himself engaged with the report, so that he studies that thoroughly and gives you the correct evaluation. Otherwise it will be very hard for anybody to read the theory, because we have limited time and we don't give much time to read the theory. And if we see much content, much theory, we just skip those pages, no matter how good you have explained or what your selections were. So that is a big question, how you define yourself and how you represent yourself. It's all about representing the content in minimum possible space with maximum possible creativity, using photoshops, using the designing softwares, and making some brochures sort of things. So it's all about your representation and creation. Maybe see, there are two things. If you know anything and you are not communicate, you cannot communicate to anybody, so you will the only one who knows that. So I am not understanding the things until and unless you are making me understand. So you have to communicate. So representation is a way of communication. Like how you communicate, it depends. Suppose I'm telling you anything and I'm not communicating you proficiently, so there are high chances that you won't be getting the exact things what I want you to understand. So you need to work upon that thing. And the design reports content, what exactly should be there, it's on the way, like suspension, lateral load transfer, longitudinal load transfer, center of gravity's location, steering, turning radius, maximum speed, everything on the way we will learn. And many things you already might have calculated, or like the turning radius, how exactly you came up with the turning radius, what is the final wheelbase and track weight, what is the ground clearance, and what is the tire size, what is the maximum speed. So this is all iterations, step by step you're performing iterations. It's not about finalizing the things in one attempt. It's about every next step you might need to reconsider the previous consideration, because it is interrelated. Suppose your brake guy told you that okay, the previous thing that we considered is not working anymore. So it's like for him alone it is not working. If you are going with that, maybe other systems will also be affected with that particular consideration. So you have to reconsider that in order to make it a super fine thing. You have to reconsider, and the more number of iterations you perform, you will be coming up to more precise solution of that problem. All right, DFMEA is basically, next thing is DFMEA. Don't bother about the questions, just keep noting them, and when I start the question and answer session, you can post your questions. So DFMEA is basically design failure modes, effects and analysis. So I say it as FMEA. I just cut the D, failure modes, effects and analysis. So as the name suggests, what is FMEA? It's the list of all the potential failures and their causes, their effects, their severity. It's the list of all those potential failures that can happen to your vehicle. I mean, from A to Z, whatever the failures can happen in your vehicle, you have to list them down. You have to provide the proper severity, proper occurrence, proper detection, and these things. And then you will be making the FMEA. So basically, FMEA is a pen and paper task. Now you may question me that okay, sir, we didn't manufacture our vehicle. How can we how can we prepare the FMEA report? I just get this question very frequently. So for that, I will say, okay, you didn't manufacture the vehicle so far, but you already have a knowledge of manufacturing it. You will see how many failures can happen. Suppose there is a brake system. Obviously, the failures can happen. You haven't manufactured the brake system yet, but you know about the failures, and there is a potential threat to your system. If the brakes fail, there is a potential threat to your system, the complete system, that the system will fail. Suppose the master cylinder is correct, but there is a flaw in your arrangement and installing the lines. There may be air gaps, air bubbles inside the fluid line, or any reason, because of any reason the brake may fail. So it's not about brakes only. It can be about steering. It can be about engine, tires. So what all the failures, you just note them down. Just hand the duty over to every team in charge, like engine and transmission, tires, wheels and tires, suspension, steering and frame. Just hand over the duties, or and electronics also. Hand over the duty, electricals. So hand over the duties to the team in charges and ask them to prepare a list of all the failures that can happen. Don't bother about their severity and occurrences of now. Just list down the potential failures first. First of all, systems, list of sorry, it's not systems, it's list of subsystems in your vehicle. The first thing. Now there must be team leaders for every subsystem in your team. Just give them the duty that make a list of every failure that can happen in your vehicle because of any reason. List of all the, and this will be the subsystem failure, list of subsystem failure. Then their causes. What caused this particular failure? Then comes the occurrence, detection, and severity. Severity, occurrence, and detection. Severity is a particular failure that is happening. How severe is it to the audience and to the user? So in this case, user is the driver and audience may be the people with standing by the near the tracks, and maybe the quads coming from behind your quad. So the, what is the severity? Suppose brake failure. You won't be able to stop your vehicle and you will end up hitting somebody. Either you will be injured, the driver will be injured, or anybody with whom you are meeting the accident with, he will be injured, or both. So what is the level of injury? So that is the severity of that particular failure. But brake fail, as I said, brake failure is a subsystem failure. It's a subsystem failure. In this particular subsystem, there can be n number of causes. Can be wrong selection of master cylinder and caliper, air bubbles, wrong installation of caliper, improper material, lack of fluid, or incompatible fluid, and several other causes that you can find. So the first job is to list down all the subsystem failures like brake failure, steering failure, engine failure, transmission failure, electricals failure. So this is the subsystem failure. Now ask the team leaders to subdivide those failures and see for the cause of that failure. What is the cause of that failure? So as of now, if you see, brake failure is a system, subsystem, and so far we have written 5 to 6 causes. But if you see more, if you research more, you will find that there are 10 to 15 causes that are causing your brake to fail, and every one of them should be addressed. Every one of them should be addressed and resolved, to be very precise. So resolving means making your design a little more fail proof, that it doesn't fail so easily, and even if it fails, the severity is not that much, and if it is failing at all, the occurrence is as minimum as possible. The occurrence is basically out of 100 failures or out of 1000 failures, how many times this particular failure will happen, right? So this is about doing this pen and paper job, listing out all the things. So I will now show you a format. So don't go on the points mentioned over here, this is the format that we are following for last long time. And you just need to prepare, first of all, as I said, I'm repeating it again. First of all, list down all the subsystems, their failures, subsystem failures, then the potential causes of those failures. After potential causes, just try to diagnose how will you detect the failure, or how will you find out which failure has happened, because of what cause has it happened. So suppose, as of now, testing of steering, this is not a term, process step is testing of the steering. Let me first explain you the format. This is FMEA, failure mode effect analysis. Project name, FMEA team. Your team, you can prepare by the name, person, and date, on which date it has been prepared. So severity basically is the how severe the effect is. Occurrence is how frequently it occurs, and detection is how easily or how is it possible to detect that particular cause. And RPN is the multiplication of those all three factors: risk, priority number, severity, occurrence, and detection. If you multiply these three factors, you will come up with an RPN. This is an RPN. So the highest RPN will decide the most frequently occurred failure, most severe failure, and most detectable failure. So if suppose anything is failing in your vehicle, you won't see the failures. You will refer to the RPN, and the first priority will be given to the highest RPN. Then second priority will be given. Suppose, take an example, you call customer care and you tell them that my telephone, my mobile is not working, this is the problem I'm facing. So how they must be doing this, how they must be diagnosing the problem. So they tell you the precise solution for your problem. So how they must be doing it? There is a FMEA sheet with them. So if that particular problem is happening, they refer to that sheet and they tell you, okay, this is the problem, and do these, follow these steps, and this problem will be solved. So this is how it is. Process step is what you are doing. Potential failure mode is what is failing. Potential failure effects also you have to write. Now give them severity. How you will give the severity, I will show you the table, and their causes, obviously, how exactly the. So I'll share a proper not proper, I'll share a more a better design, a better FMEA report with you guys, that shows, like, if brake is failing, what exactly is the potential cause for that brake failure, and for every cause, what is the effect of that particular failure, and to that effect, what is the severity, and what is the occurrence, and what is the detection. All right. So after this, I will show you the table. Okay, so this is the occurrence table. So out of 10, how will you give 10 rating to any failure that is occurring? Very high or persistent failure? Greater than or equal to 100 per 1000 vehicles. I mean, or items. I mean, if there are 100 vehicles, then out of 100 vehicles, out of those 1000 vehicles, 100 times this particular failure will be happening, so you will be giving this 10 rating. And similarly, this table, follow this table. So you have to just analyze and see how many times your failure, your particular cause is can happen in the vehicle. So as of now, take example, how many times it is possible for your vehicle to fail the brakes. Now it is up to you. Suppose if it is failing due to the design flaw, that means your design should be reconsidered. It's not about the failure of the vehicle. It's about the wrong design that you have made. That is malpractice of engineering. So that is not a problem. If it is failing because of any natural reason, right? Like the worn out fluid line. So that happens once in a lifetime. I mean, when the vehicle is about to be dead, or it then only it happens. So wearing out the failure, wearing out of the fluid lines, lack of fluid inside the master cylinder, that means that is because of your negligence. And if you are maintaining the vehicle properly, that means this won't happen. This will never happen until and unless your vehicle meets an accident and you damage the master cylinder. So position of master cylinder is also one big question here. So it's about you are finding out the problems and their causes, and at the same time diagnosing their effects, and at the same time thinking about how can you minimize those problems. Suppose the master cylinder was the problem. The master cylinder got crashed during an accident or during a track move. Suppose you are in suspension test and there are wooden blocks, stones kept everywhere. So accidentally your master cylinder, if it hits the wooden block, that means the position is wrong. You have to make the position more safe so that it is securely kept inside the vehicle, and your RPN, the risk priority number for that particular failure, is automatically coming down. So basically you have to perform the iterations again and again in order to improve the vehicle's design. Okay, so this is about the occurrence. Then comes the severity. Hazardous without warning is 10. Hazardous without warning is like taking life. The driver is dead, or the person with whom this particular failure is happening, he is dead. Very high severity ranking when a potential failure mode affects the safe vehicle operation and or involves in compliance with the government regulations without warning. So it is 10. Hazardous with warning, again 9. Very high, 8. And similarly, just go on with the list. So this is the list. I'm showing you the list shown by, used by ARAI. I hope you all know the ARAI. And this is detection. Absolute uncertain. I mean, you never know what failures has gone, what has gone wrong with your vehicle. So absolute uncertain. I mean, you don't know at all what failure has happened and when it has happened. So it's 10. You only know when the system stops working. Then only you know that okay, this failure has happened. Something has gone wrong with my vehicle or my machine. So it's absolutely uncertain. You don't know anything about this. Very remote. 9, remote 8, and very low, moderate, high, very high, and almost certain. So almost certain is, you know that okay, engine has stopped. Because of what reason engine has stopped, that is one detection. Okay, so all right, you will follow this table, and again coming to the FMEA chart, then you will find that after assigning the severity, occurrence, and detection, you will find an RPN. Suppose this is the 1000 RPN. This is the highest risk for your vehicle. I mean, if anything goes wrong on the first place, this will be the failure that will go wrong if it has the highest RPN. This is, in simple words, means to the RPN, risk priority number. All right. So your job is to make the RPN number as minimum as possible. How you can do that? You have to revise your design. So I told you at a place, I told you that okay, after researching and developing, you were standing somewhere. So I was telling you that you are standing somewhere after researching and developing, after referring to the designs previously available, after considering the rule book and everything. Now, since you have started working technically, now the FMEA is telling that this particular RPN is high. So you need to think about the solution of that particular problem. So you will forecast the actions recommended. Suppose, go back and just recall my example. you called up the customer care and you told them the problem. Now they are telling you the solution to the problem. How they are offering you that solution, that probable solution, that this will work. So this is how you decide. Okay, in the first place, what did you do? List down all the potential failures of the systems or subsystems. After subsystems, the causes of those particular failures. After the failures, causes, their effects. After the effects, assign the severity, then occurrence, and then detection. And this will give you the risk priority number. The first thing is, I will write it down for you. Failure mode. Failure mode is basically subsystem failure. Then comes potential cause. This, so as I gave you the example for brake failure, so there can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on, so forth. Number of causes for this particular failure. So potential failure, potential causes. For every cause, the effect will be different or maybe same, but it's not certain that okay, for every cause the effect will be most severe only. So suppose for this particular failure, the effect is a little less severe, and for this it is high, severe, and for this it is the highest. So accordingly, you have to give severity, occurrence, detection to all these things. So list down this is the potential cause, then effect of this particular cause. Based on the effect only, you will give the severity rating. Severity rating, based on the effect you will give the severity rating, then based on that particular cause, detection and occurrence. So this, for every particular cause there will be an RPN. Okay, so RPN is basically the multiplication of these three factors: severity, detection, and occurrence. All right, so your job is to keep the RPN as minimum as possible. I hope you got my point. Now list down all the causes in all the systems or subsystems and make a report. Now study that report and see if the RPN is still high, if the thing is still risky. And if it is risky, that means reconsider your FMEA and keep on performing iterations. So this report is showing you at least two RPNs, RPN 1, RPN 2. So your job is that this RPN, the RPN 1 should the RPN, the new RPN is always less than the previous RPN. So your job is to keep it performing for like 5 to 10 times. So you will be having 10 RPNs for every failure. So iteration, suppose you have performed 5 trials for FMEA. Okay, so there will be RPN 1, this will be highest, RPN 2, RPN 3, 4, and 5. So the one which you are selecting it for the final, this is the lowest RPN, and then when you are satisfied, you have to show the values accordingly. Now you doing these many times, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you have changed your primary consideration 5 times just on one report, that is FMEA. Now there are several other reports like DVP. DVP will give you certain outputs, and then again you will need to change the vehicle's design. Now you must be wondering, we have to do these many things in order to make a vehicle? Yes, you have to do these many things, because see, if you go to a mechanic outside who's not educated, who's not an engineer, he will build a vehicle better than you can. All right, but he cannot think upon these things. He cannot think upon the documentation. All right, so an engineer's duty is to design a product. Design is basically solving a problem. So the problem is that to make a more safe, more rigorous vehicle that meets the requirement of the event. So for that thing, you are supposed to keep on performing iterations one after the other. So if you see one vehicle, when it comes to the market, it is destroyed hundreds of times. It is reconstructed hundreds of times. So this is not about doing it for one time or two times. It's about this is one report, FMEA. Now we will switch the discussion to the DVP. I will share the slide that I'm referring here. I will share the slides with you, and you will be able to know more details about these things. So FMEA in simple word is a input, a brainstorming process, a map, process history, and list of procedures, knowledge, and experience, as I said. Now the output is list of actions to prevent or detect the failure modes. All right. I hope this is clear to you. I will again repeat my discussion, which is first of all, make a list of all the system failures, subsystem failures, brake failures,